BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, we join Farmwatch across the BBC as harvest continues across the country.
It's absolutely chaotic and it's very long nights, but we all pull together and I just absolutely love it.
Well, Farmwatch will see farms take over BBC local radio in England today and also feature on other bits of the BBC. It began last year when it ran alongside the Farmers Guardian campaign Farm 24, which also takes place today. This year's BBC Farmwatch is bigger, and it does of course happen at one of the busiest times of the year for many farmers, harvest. Here on Farming Today, we're following the harvest all week, from grains to veg. And there are always challenges in growing and harvesting fresh vegetables. If it's not the hot weather or the availability of workers, it's the social diary of the consumer and whether they fancy a barbecue this week or not. Mary Ward-Lowry has been to Boston in Lincolnshire to find out the latest on this year's sweetcorn harvest.
If you're thinking of lighting up the grill this weekend to char some corn on the cob, it might just have come from this field of rustling sweetcorn. This is reclaimed floodland in the very flat south of Lincolnshire, where you'll find some of the very best soil anywhere for growing vegetables.
So yeah, if we take one off the plant, you see the cob's surprisingly big. So see, it's fully formed all the way to the end. It's just a pale yellow, not a golden yellow. It's not too
really dense kernels.
Yeah, it's formed really well.
Staples vegetables supply many of the main supermarkets, and of the 27,000 acres of land they cultivate across the UK, up to 1,400 acres are devoted to sweetcorn. I'm with George Reed, one of the owners of this big family business, to check out this year's harvest.
It's the first sweetcorn we're harvesting this year, probably 2 foot shorter than we'd normally expect, and that's just because of the really extreme dry conditions that we've had. It has, however, produced a good cob on it. We're very lucky here in Lincolnshire. We've got some very fertile silts that are naturally very moisture retentive. Even in this dry year, it's still a good quality crop.
It looks quite a heavy cob.
Yeah, the cobs are surprisingly big, even though the plant is quite short, which I was a bit concerned earlier in the year that it wasn't going to produce a big enough cob to meet our retailer specs, but it has. I would say the only thing is it's probably a little bit more uneven germination, so there'll be a bit more wastage, but that will go into our AD plant. Sweetcorn is great food for AD because there's lots of energy in cobs, and so it's an ideal energy crop for us. So it's not all waste, it'll go to some use and it'll power the business with our green energy.
I know that not many farmers have their own anaerobic digester, but anyone who's growing vegetables for supermarkets has to make sure that their produce is ready for when customers want to buy it.
Biggest demand obviously is early August normally. All the schools are breaking up from holidays. A lot of the retailers put on promotions on sweetcorn to really push the UK crop. First 3 weeks in August is when the 30 or 40% of the UK crop gets moved.
Tell me about the harvesting as well. How does that work? And because you were thinking earlier, just a couple of weeks ago, you were wondering whether it would have to be harvested by hand.
Yeah, I was concerned that the crop was going to be a bit shorter than normal. The early varieties always tend to be a little bit shorter. If the crop was too short, we have mechanical harvesters, but the crop needs to be a certain height for the machines to get under the cob so it can harvest the cob without damaging it. Fortunately, yeah, we're okay. You can see the machine behind us, and yeah, we're just managing to get under the cob to harvest it mechanically. Otherwise, it would have been going back to the first days when we started growing sweetcorn. It was all harvested by hand, which is obviously very slow, very expensive, and finding labour to do that kind of manual work is difficult now. So
this is a harvester coming along now.
Obviously, dry conditions, it's making it a bit dusty. So
in our faces.
Yeah, but now that's blowing all the trash out, so leaving all the trash in the field. The rest of the plant just gets pulled through the plant, and we'll chop that back into the field, and it'll be good organic matter and nutrient for the next crop.
Because sweetcorn's it can be quite a needy plant, can't it? And the harvesting process is quite damaging for the soil. And how do you deal with that?
Sweetcorn's not really damaging for soil at all because we're harvesting it's in our summer, so it's quite dry conditions. So we're harvesting in nearly always good conditions. At the end of October, could get some wet weather.
So it's the compacting of the soil that could be
of any harvesting operation, whatever it is, your crop you're doing, it's the compaction. If it gets really wet, we'd just empty at the end of the field with a bulk tank, so you can keep your tractors and trailers on the end of the field, so you've only just got your self-propelled machine going up and down. But yeah, 95% of the time with sweetcorn, because it's a summer harvest crop, we're harvesting in pretty good conditions
George Reed harvesting sweetcorn in Lincolnshire. And you can hear a lot more from farms across England on BBC Local Radio today as Farmwatch takes over. Marie Lennon, one of our Farming Today reporters, is also one of the Farmwatch producers.
Well, Farmwatch is one day, a 24-hour period where lots of farming stories will be shared across the BBC. Now, of course, the BBC is very good at telling these stories. Farming Today is the best place to hear farming stories and news. But Farmwatch is about collecting things together for one day so that audiences across the country can really get a sense of what's happening in their local farms.
Why? Why did you want to do that?
Well, this all came about initially from my colleagues in BBC Radio Lincolnshire, and they were informed of a story, a really sad story in their area of a local young farmer who took his own life. And the community of farmers around him got in touch to say, actually, we really want to talk about this. We think there are big conversations to be had around the mental health challenges faced by farmers in our community, but obviously further afield. And from that, started a wider conversation. So that's how it started. And this year it's evolved into something a bit bigger with lots more people involved. And the idea is this year it's about just getting to know the people and who they are, what they do, why they do it.
So give us some highlights of what you hope will be happening today.
Well, there are lots of individual stories which are just lovely, and there's a whole series already on the BBC Sounds page. Just search for Farmwatch and you'll hear little pockets of farming stories from every corner of the country. We'll have a 5-hour live stream from a combine harvester from 9 a.m. from a farm in Wiltshire, and you can, as a viewer, go on to the BBC News website and just watch that farmer working. And it's like a slow TV experience. And also, via the website, ask some questions. So that's one thing. All of local radio also are coming together for a special evening show from 7 until 10, presented by two well-known farmers. So Mike Wilkins, who I know you know from the Great British Bake Off, a farmer in the West Country, and Harriet Cowan, who is also a farmer and best known currently for being part of Clarkson's Farm. They're presenting a special programme all about farming from 7. So it is a full farmer takeover across the BBC on radio, telly, online and social.
Top plugging there from Marie Lennon. Let's have a sneak preview then of Farmwatch and hear from some of the farmers who will feature. Tom and Sandy Waln in Suffolk spoke to Sarah Lilly about breeding Suffolk punch horses. Tabia Ali met Lucinda Bird in County Durham, where she farms Jacob sheep and spins their wool. And first, Tammy Gooding went to see Joe Lawrence, who farms in Herefordshire.
At 17, I lost my dad really suddenly, so the choices were come home and farm, or we'd either have to rent the farm out or sell the farm. So ultimately I chose to come home, and I've been here ever since.
I took the drive over and I came into the most beautiful Herefordshire countryside, and then I eventually found your farm.
It's not the biggest, we're about 200 acres. It's big enough for me though. We have plenty on it.
Now you've come to introduce me first off to these little beauties, these calves. Hello.
These are what we reared in the spring, so they're only young still, they're only a few months old. They've got really rough tongues as well, it's like sandpaper.
I got myself a working horse. I'm going out doing things with this working horse, real old steady old plodder, and that got people's interest.
Well, they all have different personalities. I know people say about heavy horses being gentle giants. It is the way that you bring them up that makes them gentle. You have to put the love in, the love and the care. They want to do what you ask them to do. You know, I'm very short, I'm only 5'2", so my head is sort of level with their shoulder, and so I can't see over their back.
Yeah.
I've got now, so I wouldn't be able to put a set of harness on them, but I used to just stand on a crate to get the collar over her ears. And the thing is, although you must be firm, you've got to be gentle, because, you know, they're very sensitive.
It's Heather
Yes.
that's in the field behind us.
Yeah.
What are your hopes for her? Well, I mean, for all we know, so she could be...
She could be pregnant with baby number 5 with a bit of luck. We'll know in a fortnight's time.
Now I'm going to be waiting. I'm going to be pacing now as well.
So we're up to the carding machine. I'm just going to turn her on. So here she goes. Everything's going round on the rollers. We've got a really smooth piece, a little bit like brushed out hair, that's coming out where all the fibres are aligned, and they're all wrapping around a great big roller to make a really thick sheet. So as you take it off, depending on which wool breed you've got, we've got Jacob on at the minute, which comes off with lots of different stripes, white, grey, black, browns on there. It's magic.
Is this the most satisfying part of the whole process for you?
When the carding machine runs really, really well, it's bliss. When there's an issue with machinery, it's hell.
Just some of the farmers who will feature in Farmwatch today. As Marie mentioned, one of the presenters will be Wiltshire farmer and bake-off contestant Mike Greenwood-Wilkins. He should be in the middle of harvest at home, but instead will be travelling around other farms in what he told me he hopes will be a celebration of farming.
So I really, really hope that it is a bit of a breath of fresh air in reporting around agriculture, in that it's a real positive insight into what farmers do, because actually farmers have so many struggles and so many difficulties that we face on a daily basis, economical problems, as well as the weather and the environment and policy issues and so on. And it's quite easy for farmers to complain about that a lot. And the nature of news is that it's always negative stories that get reported. But actually, farmers up and down the country every single day of the year get up every single day. They go out on their farm. They produce great, amazing British food. They look after our countryside and they absolutely love what they do. And I don't think we actually have enough of a conversation around all of the positive, great things that farmers do every single day and why farmers love being farmers and why they're passionate about carrying on in this industry. And I really hope that Farmwatch shines a light on those stories of all the great things that farmers do.
They have asked you at probably one of your busiest times of the year, harvest, a very intense time of the year, but also it can be a fun time of the year, I guess.
Oh, such a fun time of year. I love harvest so much. It is, especially because at home it's an absolute family affair and it's absolutely chaotic and it's very long nights, but we all pull together and the energy is really high pace and it all feels slightly stressful, but still really good fun. And I just absolutely love it. Getting sort of slightly cross looks from Dad at the moment because we are harvesting at home and I'm off now to do everything for Farmwatch and the combine's rolling and he wants me to be at home, so I do feel quite guilty, but hopefully it's worth it for the positive messaging that we're getting across. I'll be home soon, Dad, I promise.
Have you at least left him a cake?
No, I haven't. We had a bake sale in the village at the weekend and I had loads of cake in the freezer saved up for harvest, and actually most of it went to the bake sale in the village and Mum went and bought some of it back.
You are on the National Farmers Union Crops Board, so you are more aware than most of what's happening around the country. And as we've been reporting on this programme, this harvest isn't the easiest, is it? Absolutely not. It is one of the most unusual harvests I think we have ever had because it is so variable, not just across the country, but, you know, within counties, even within some farms. I think because the weather patterns we've had this year have been so localised and soil type has then played so much into the viability and success of crops that some people are getting almost record-breaking yields on some crops, and then large proportions of people barely have a crop to harvest in places. Everyone's having such a different experience this harvest. Mike Greenwood-Wilkins there. More from him across BBC Local Radio today. And Farmwatch is also on BBC Sounds. And if you search on Sounds for On Your Farm, you'll be able to listen to the programme we made when I went to visit Mike on his farm. There was cake. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Rebecca Rooney. And Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.